All right, I've been doing some research on Atlantis, and I think it is the eye of the Sahara, and I think the Sahara drained literally through that cut that's in the ground. And if you look at it from outer space, you'll see exactly what I mean. And I have a video about the geography and so forth of the area and showing how it's my take on how this happened. Now, I could be totally wrong, but I'm trying to support what I have thought. So, in that vein, I am now going to bring forward some information about the historical data that seems to me very convincing. And this particular guy here, Manley P Hall, he died in 1990, but he had done some extremely good research on this, and this video showed up. I don't know exactly how, but it showed up online here. Now, he had very, very good insights. And the thing that he presented was that in Africa, there appears to be two distinct cultures, two distinct groups, let's put it that way, that have different concepts of life. One of them, let's call them the Indigenous People, that, and the way he puts it, they struggled through figuring out a way to live off the land and how to make things better for themselves, and have come to a point of harmony with nature, and they're sort of childlike, and they're genuine people where everything's happy, wondrous, and you don't see them having so much vanity and so forth. Now, that's the Indigenous people, let's call them. Now then we go to the non-Indigenous people that feel superior, and they're proud, they feel great, and this is exactly how he portrays them, and there is a group that is out there, there's no question, that has those traits, and they want to control and dominate, and those were the non-Indigenous people, is what he's saying, and those were the believers in these very traditional, deep religious roots of gods. And he claims that these people believed in multiple gods originally, and then now, of course, it's it's forced into a single god religion, which I fully understand, and I fully understand the whole reasoning behind it. I mean, in my mind, I do. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I feel I have an understanding of it. And I think what actually happened was a group came here, headed by God, the real big God, and the rest of the guys were exactly the same as him, and he divided up the earth to them, and that's what the original texts say. Plato talks about this, and they screwed up the whole earth. They just did all kinds of bad things, and then finally he said, no, that's it, we're done, no more multi-god deal, we're going to just me. And that didn't work out so good. Nobody paid much attention to that, so he decided to start over again. And that didn't work out so good, so he sent Christ down to die for our sins. He said he came down and died for our sins, exactly what he did. And the way I see it, and I do have evidence to support all this stuff, this is not just philosophy, because I have actual giants. And I'm going to get to this, but listen to this carefully, because this is very important. Christ died for our sins, is the way I see it. And the reason I see it that way is because we didn't pay any attention. And the only way God figured he could get us to pay attention is to do something really, really brutal to Jesus, so that we would see that his love and his warmth and his peacefulness is really the only way to overcome this kind of brutality that we have now. And it's just common sense, really. But anyway, So anyway, I'll get off the political stuff. But what happened was there was two distinct groups of people, And, and they were the politicians and the leaders of everybody else that felt superior. And then they had the people that were childlike, and it's just doing exactly the same thing today. So anyway, these were who he thinks were the Atlanteans. And I totally agree with that idea. They came in fully equipped to they were fully cultured, had everything, had art and culture and science and poetry and writing and polished ways and sophistication, and they showed up one day in Ethiopia looking for a place to go. They were refugees. Well, why were they refugees? Well, obviously the Atlantis went away, and this is documented. There's documentation of this, that's what the Ethiopians say happened. And then the Ethiopians say that they helped these people, they call them strangers from the West, who arrived in the mud, and they helped them and supported them and set them up in Egypt, it sounds like, in the Nile Valley area, to sort of run things up there. It sounds like to me. Now, again, this is all speculation, but I don't think, everybody's speculating, because I don't think anybody was there that I know. So this is my take. And it's the documentation, Plato and all of these other people, supports this. And it says in multiple places in ancient texts that the Egyptians and the Ethiopians were virtually a single culture. They were very good trading partners and friends and peaceful neighbors, and now this guy here, Manley P Hall, brings all of the nuance into this. Now there's a lot of talk about this and they did this and they did that. Well, this guy here, Hall, he finds the pottery, he finds the jewelry, he finds the techniques and the different things, how they move from here to there to the next place. Now, I think, the guy did obviously fabulous work, and I don't want to malign him, but I think he's got it exactly right, but exactly backwards. He thinks the Egyptians came from Egypt to Ethiopia, but that's not what it says in the ancient texts, and the way but that's just speculation. So anyway, but they were the same culture, virtually. So that's what I'm saying. And if you want to listen to something, this guy's got it. This Manley P Hall, very, very, very good. And he comes down to the different cultures and the Benin and the Ephes and how they had superior workmanship, and there were bronze sculptures and everything. And then they had the other guys living in a different area that were throwing rocks at things. So that's what he sees as two distinct cultures and two distinct traditions that did not come together. They came disparately. One was an aboriginal thing that had to figure out a way to eat worms and live off the land and what I mean. And then they finally got it to a point where they were comfortable. Well, I don't know if they were comfortable now, but they were living and they were populating the earth. These other guys came in. They wanted something nice to wear and warm and yada yada yada. They wanted all the good stuff. Two separate different ways of thinking and different lifestyles and different acceptances of things. And I think the guy's right. And I think Atlanteans came, and they were the Pharaohs, and that's why they showed up and just popped out of the sand, and they were all set to go. Why? That just didn't happen overnight. Either they came out of space, or they came out of the Atlanteans. They didn't just become this sophisticated that quick from cave people. It's just not possible. So those are, as far as I'm concerned, those are the only possibilities. They either came from outer space or they came from Atlantis. And I think basically it might even work out to be the same thing, but who cares? You have to pay attention to reality. You can't just say, oh, it was just something that happened. These guys were using copper chisels and doing this and that. And all the other stuff is all, there's so much research on this that's been ignored. All of those structures are made out of concrete. And they have the chemistry of it. have the chemistry of it that proves it. So these are kind of things that academia really has to look at, and I think they're just seeing it as too much for them to take on. And of course the giants, which I have DNA evidence of all that stuff, they won't look at that because these things were 90 feet tall. 90 feet tall, and they don't even want to see it. Oh, you guys are crazy. Well, no, I have DNA tests, 3 separate DNA tests. I have 7 CAT scans. I have physical documentation. I have the process of mud fossilization, which is a electrofossilization in wet mud by the spontaneous electrical currents that are generated in wet mud, fully understood, totally overlooked. What it does is it literally plates the creature that was buried in a mudslide, and they're so protected that they don't degenerate, they don't decompose. And I have them that literally look like fresh meat, and I'll show you one right now. All right, this is a fossil that came out of the ground. It's literally a piece of raw meat that has petrified. And this is what they call fascia, and that triangular piece is the fascia flap, which holds. Fascia covers all the different organs and muscle and tendons and all of that stuff in your body, and that's what separates things one from the other, and that's why these things separate along these planes. It's a natural process. And the cold, wet, fine, they call them platypolar silicates. I don't know if you can see in here how perfectly detailed this is. This is exactly like a piece of fresh meat. But anyway, the protective preservation of this mud fossilization process is incredible. And there's pHs that are involved. It's got to be in certain this and that. But it's all been figured out, and it's all been recreated in the lab too, with chicken tissues and in muds and different materials. Anyway, there's videos on that too. So anyway, this is the kind of preservation, and there's multiple things of this, and this is a lung, a human lung. Now this is this has been DNA tested, and it's 100% human DNA. And very, very old. I don't know how old, because we need to do some more tests, and resources are not available. But if you see these very fine white flaky looking things, that is what is fascia. And this, in this particular case, this may be pleura or something like that. I forget the anatomist. I had this expert anatomist look at it. He agreed with everything, but he said this was not just fascia. This is another coating over the top of fascia, pleura or something like that. I can't remember. But this is the identical architecture of a human lung, and it is a human lung, and it's been tested as a human lung. It's DNA tested, and it's proven. And I've proven that we have normal-sized humans, and we have them up to 90 feet tall and even beyond that. So this is what I have, and it's factual, it's evidential, there's no question about it. I have the DNA tests. Hold on, I'll show you that in a second. All right, these are DNA tests. There's 3 separate samples, mud fossil samples, 36-inch tip, lung, and a mud tip. And these are fingertips, and this is how he did it, and all of the different techniques they used. And this guy, very, very detailed. He was very, very good. And I have a lot of other information that we had discussions about it, and he talks about where the loops were and the different base pair matches. It was 100% human mitochondrial DNA. Now, there is a lot deeper you can go with this, but I don't have the resources to do that kind of stuff, but he did as much as was necessary to prove what's provable, and it's proven. So now if you want to go deeper, but this goes very, very detailed. He's got all that he did and so forth, and it goes on and on and on. So that's what I've got, and I think somebody should take a look at it, and it's being ignored. So the whole thing fits in with Atlantis, and it fits in with giants were around, and there's no question about it, and they talk about it in the ancient days, and they talk about it at Atlantis and the gods, and I think that this is where the whole beginning of our population was Atlantis. It sounds like to me. And there was originally a group of gods headed by God, the real God, and they didn't work out. They didn't do their job. Just like what we've got for leaders. Except we can't get God to come back and say no more one God. You know, because one God came back, took over, and who knows what's going to happen in our case. But the way we got it, the gods we got aren't doing their job.